All right, greetings everybody. It is that time of the day again, week, year. I was going to do a bunch of different stuff in there, but talking about, of course, Sakura Frappuccino time. Every year, Starbucks gets a brand new Starbucks Frappuccino. It's a little bit different from last year, and this year it's Sakura Frappuccino, macaroon themed, and great. It's really great. If you never had a Sakura flavor thing before, so good. A little bit of cherry, a little bit of melon flavor, a little bit of strawberry flavor. I absolutely. All right. Oh, sorry. This is a Wotv video. So today we're going to be talking about Valentine Miranda, who is the newest version of a character with a Valentine's Day theme. And this year, I quite like Miranda's overall design. I think it's quite the little sweetheart thing that we got going on here. And once again, continuing on the JP trend of an 18k guaranteed one copy of the unit with 80 shards along the way up. So for 18k, that's pretty good. It's not amazing, but it is pretty darn good. So that's fine. And before we go any further, there's also a 9-step for people who are interested in the old units. Now those units have been upgraded, and I will make a separate video looking at them in the near future and their upgrades and whether or not I think it's worth it. But for today, let's take a look at Miranda, and starting off by showing off her limit burst animation, which I have not really seen that much, but actually it's like uses her weapon quite nicely. And isn't that just the most sweetest, cute thing that you've ever seen your entire life? Fantastically themed. Probably my favorite of the Valentine's Day units in design and whatnot at this point. But yes, brand new character. And let's jump over, because we also have the friend unit to take a look at. Then we'll take a look at her kit, everything in there, and give her a little bit of a test. Just probably on a mono light team for now, and further testing in. All right, jumping over. Here is the new version of Miranda. About 7,000 HP, 1,759 magic, 101 speed with the current equipment across this grouping of characters. For reference sake, here is the new version of Stern. Mostly speed is what you're looking at here, but we can also compare Sakura, who I think equipment-wise is pretty similar. I mean, we're looking at the exact same vision cards, so an old unit like Sakura at 120 versus a new unit at 140 is an interesting comparison. Also, here is Elena at 120 and her stats, so you can get an idea for where this unit is in terms of speed. One of the big things here is that we are looking at a 70 cost unit. Now, this new unit also features some new things, such as a brand new weapon that is basically tailor-made for her, 144 magic, a fair amount of critical, and some accuracy on it, with slash attack resistance, penetration, magic, human killer, reaction block, and AP down, which is overall just a strong piece of equipment. Now, this piece of equipment is only for her, so good, nice little piece of equipment. And as you can see, we got this for equipment in here. This is her TMR stats you can see right here in front of you. And moving on, we're going to take a look at the ability. Now, the ability is decreased chance of being targeted by 6 and increase accuracy by 30 for 3 turns. 2 casts on it, 24 TP. Overall, a nice piece of equipment that I think is fairly good here. Good against evasion type characters, and also keeps the focus off on whichever character casts this. I kind of like this for a bunch of different characters, because it overall could be an accuracy buff for characters that need an accuracy buff, and for other characters who are looking for maybe just, some protection from not being hit or targeted. This is also pretty good. So I like this TMR a lot. Now, overall, you can see the general theme. We got Bahamut, we got Bahamut's card, and we got magic. So this is really pushing a lot of magic stat on her. She still has 25 defense, 17 spirit, and this 4 resistances. And this should give you a clue as to where this unit is going to be particularly strong. Pretty good slash resistance, even some good strike resistance, which I think is becoming more and more valuable. But big focus here is anti-shooting, and that is one of the things that this unit does actually very, very well. Frostbite, slow, immobilize, and last but not least, some toad resistance, which I guess is that 70 potential matchup against a certain other 70 cost themed unit, but let's take a look. So yes, this is a 70 cost unit with White Mage and Grimoire Keeper, as well as what is essentially a new version of Blade Soul. Uses weapon types of katanas, which is pretty interesting. And so that's the new type of weapon it is. I think I made a mistake and said that it was a sword, and it does seem to be classified as a katana, so my bad. Master ability, slash attack resistance penetration of 10 and acquired AP of 30 with the combination of what is on her weapon. I think this is pretty good. Getting her to 140 will give an extra 10% for slash and strike resistance. Healing killer of 10 when she deals magic attacks, as well as upgrade ability. So generally pretty good right now. Overall, you're looking at a magic damage dealer that is really cost efficient. If you are looking for that as being a kind of bonus, you're focusing more on limited time events, which honestly at this point in the lifespan of the game, limited events are happening all the freaking time. Just all the freaking time. We're always seeing like limited cost events happen. So yeah, these 70 costs do pay for themselves a lot of the time. Now, the 2 new abilities that we are looking for support are basically this one, increase magic by 24% and decrease AP consumption by 25, as well as this one, increase HP and dark resistance. So really strong for against her worst matchup. And also, we're also just looking at a pretty overall effective DPSer. Also has Nullified Doom with the increased magic. Thankfully, that getting improved has just given her a good option here. And from Grimoire, we have extra defense and spirit penetration if needed, and extra HP and magic. So she has a good range of support skills that I think are quite goodly. Looking at her counters, now she has Grimoire, chance to counter all damage, decreased chance of being targeted, increased AoE resistance. So that's a pretty interesting ability. I think that's quite good as a little bit of a defensive option to keep the focus off of her. As for White Mage, well, chance to counter damage with regen and increased healing power. It's okay. I don't think it's that amazing. But her new one that also gets an upgrade is chance to counter missile damage at 100%. Reduces the damage taken by 50%. This unit is an incredible anti-ranged unit. If there was ever a unit to get by all of the like stuff that ice can do, just killing you from a long distance, same with lightning, this is a unit that's going to be able to either get the reaction block on those ranged units, or this unit can potentially wipe the floor. It kind of feels a little bit counterintuitive because her TMR is kind of like, hey, don't target me, but you actually kind of want her to be targeted by range units, since range units are going to be really ineffective against her. But it does give her a really nice spot to fill against a specific type of the meta. It is pretty common still, so great. Limit Burst decreases spirit by 25 and light resistance by 25 for 3 turns, which is fine. Potentially really strong enabling of other light units damage as well. And over here, White Mage. So what did she end up getting? Well, looks like we got Protect, we got some basic spells, we got Asuna, we got Shell in here, a lot of single target stuff, and Holy. So honestly, White Mage feels like it completely fell entirely flat here. I mean, yes, having some healing spells available to you might be just a good thing. But since she doesn't have any cast time reduction or anything like that, it feels like her white mage is mostly wasted here and very uninteresting. As for Grimoire Master, we do have the decrease AP for 3 turns if you have one of the following things on, which is Protect, and it does grant her Protect. So she has a access to a good way of preventing physical damage, and she also has some just options to be pretty resistant against physical damage in, pretty good amount of damage type resistance from physical stuff as well. Here, she can also damage and decrease attack and magic. She has the ability to cause confusion, which, given that she has a high faith, will be good. Grimoire Master also gives her a better healing option in most cases, not flexible on range, but still just pretty much effective. And last but not least, she does have a large AoE from this that does decrease defense penetration, as well as regenerate some CT if it kills a unit. So I have to say that Grimoire Master feels like a fantastic addition to her. Now, what you're going to be giving up, you're going to be giving up a chance to cause Disable, which Disable, kind of a pretty big deal if you can just get rid of your opponent being able to do anything, and a 200% mod with a 2-hitter. Honestly, I feel like most of her sub is interesting. Either you're going to be running this or Grimoire Master. I like Grimoire Master because it gives her some more capability against physical type units and some AoEs that can potentially just be really good, and still some status effects. So all of that is fine. Looking at her main job, there's a lot of stuff to like here. So first off, we have this, which is her basic attack, which has pretty good long range in any direction. Front, back, left or right, that is, and also gives a 200% chance to deal magic damage for 3 turns. This is fairly spammable and really accessible, and given all of her AP cost down, this ability should be really quite easy to do. To balance out her Grimoire Master, she can also give herself Shell and increase magic resistance too. So basically you can run Grimoire Master for physical and her main kit for magical, and both of them will allow her to be quite strong. She can also reduce physical damage taken by 35% for a 3-time barrier, increase the agility for herself and allies, and increase magic for allies as well by 40%. So a nice support buff that I think is pretty strong here. She can give herself auto re-raise, increase slash attack resistance penetration by 40 for 3 turns and dealing damage on an AoE with pretty good range. This ability also gets upgraded to break magical barriers too. And you know what? I pretty much like it. And last ability, her job level 25, Dispel, Guts, Immortal Spirit, Courage, whatever it's called. I really should just write that down on a piece of paper in front of me. So across here, we're looking at basically a DPS with a lot of functionality and a good amount of survivability for a 70 cost. It can either be good in physical or magical. I actually think this unit's pretty enticing for 18k, because if you look at the light team, I mean, she can work with pretty much every unit that is relevant in light. She works really well with Elena. She works incredibly well with like Lucio, who is a much more free unit and way easier to build up to 140 on JP. I think that there is a lot to like in this unit in how much she synergizes with a ton of different units that are currently available in light. Like whether you have the new Stern, whether you just have a bunch of old units, whether you have tanks. I think that this character has a lot of potential, at least off of initial looks, just from like my initial impression. I can see a lot of places where I would like this character be. And honestly, I'm just trying to remember where. I think I'm currently set up for this. yeah, let's just really quickly throw this together, as I didn't do it before the video. My bad. But yeah, I think that I quite like this character for a lot of different purposes, and I think she can do quite well against multiple characters. So let's just really quickly here, we'll throw in just a hodgepodge of different ones. As you can see here, I think my emulator is getting very, very close to crashing. This is going to be a little bit of a hurry up style thing. Just with a little, I think, more focus on defense, but yeah, we'll just kind of go with it. All right. So before we crash, let's get in here. Now, obviously, our other characters not super well equipped, but we're really more curious about how she'll do against the dark characters that we have here. We got our regular good old-fashioned dark team. We love these guys for our initial testing because this is pretty relevant to everything that is currently going on in Arena with darkness. As you can see, pretty fast here, and looking in, 26 AP for her limit burst, which honestly, that right there is pretty damn strong. Pretty damn strong. Pretty damn strong. I mean, this is a really hard-hitting limit burst, especially against a 140 Sephiroth. Not necessarily with his own barrier up yet, but we haven't basically cast a lot of stuff. So just running through really quickly here to see what some of our DPS looks like. As always recently, I am more of a fan of these single target attacks because they do feel like they are starting to become more and more relevant. But yeah, we can see a very, very strong, hard-hitting limit burst. And also just the type of damage that we are going to be capable of doing. So let's also, we're not going to cast the re-raise ability. I think the ability that we want to do is our barrier ability that also gives that magic boost. So let's do that. She has her first barrier active. We'll make sure that Sephiroth is also playing on a pretty relevant field because Sephiroth usually gets both of his things active in time. Things, yes, very well put, Umbra. And which one is Lucio? Anti-darkness skill. We're just going to be running everything at this point. Yeah, we'll even be nice and give the dark resistance. Seems like our opponents are starting to get in on the fun. It's just a whole bunch of fun in this video, isn't it? All right, so again, now that we've had a little bit of a buff and we can see roughly how much. So now Majin Fina looks to be a little bit stronger against this. Now, Majin Fina, I think, has been reincarnated a few more times. That can definitely be an advantage, but here you can see where Sephiroth is just doing particularly well. We would have to be running more of the barrier crusher ability first to make sure that we are getting rid of that, which is this one. So that would get rid of his barrier, but we're also just going to be casting as much stuff as we can for her abilities just to see where we get to. So let's run this one. And now we'll get to see what some of the other DPSs can do. Now, Dark here isn't particularly relevant in terms of shooting, but I still think it's a good test to see how durable she is, even at a 70 cost, because yes, so far it looks like some of her regular abilities can't necessarily kill, but here we're looking at this, just seeing the type of damage versus other characters and how it scales. Pretty resistant against a lot of that, even though she has a ton of magic. in this current one. No. So honestly, looks like she could stand up to a Majin Fina and not immediately die. Now, of course, is the big one, Sephiroth, who is definitely a real threat and one that we see quite a bit. So looking here, Limit Burst, dealing a fair amount of damage, would remove re-raise and whatnot, but pretty resilient against a major damage dealer. But that ability is definitely the one that's going to start hurting a whole heck of a lot. So, I mean, she's not... Here's the thing. From what I can see here, she's not insta-dead to some of the strongest dark units in the entire game. But also, I think she would have a little bit of trouble. The really big advantage that I think that you have with this unit is effectively cutting your costs of having a lot of really good URs, as opposed to, if they're going to be running a dark team and they're running a Sephiroth and a Majin Bina, then effectively they really don't have a ton of extra cost to spend on a lot of other stuff, where here I think you would be able to, because you could run, for instance, Lucio, her, and Sakura and have a really generally stronger team. That would be better. All right, so just to jump in here, I want to skip one more time. So you can see the difference that Sephiroth does make, just with the extra light resistance. And this is one of the reasons why Sephiroth is particularly so strong. But I have to say that overall Miranda feels like she holds up generally pretty nice. The one thing I think that is notable is it seems like she doesn't have an AP start, but her AP cost is pretty low, so I don't think it will be over. So let's just have a little bit of fun here. Get that ability going. Also, Sephiroth, if you would just... I was thinking about letting him go in to kill some people, but maybe not. And hey, look at that. One time in 1,000, I actually did it properly in a video. Interesting to see. So let's stick it on auto while I close out my final thoughts. Early impressions, I think that this is a pretty good unit for a 70 cost. While yes, I do think that a Sephiroth Majin Bina, which is generally strong against just a ton of units and a ton of different elements, is a concern, as it is basically with any light unit, and is one of the reasons why, heck, I haven't even been like the most pro, wow, this is just an absolutely amazing, like Runes, the new version of Stern just didn't feel quite as amazing as he probably should. Here, I think that this unit is really interesting, a really good cost-effective unit for people who are looking for something new and fun to go with, and be really strong in limited events with light elemental characters. And the other thing here that I think is really particularly valuable that I want to highlight is, given that JP has such a focus on whales with these new characters, where it's like, Sephiroth and all of these characters, getting them to 140 and fully maxed is really difficult. Lucio right now is one of the most cost-effective, friendly characters for anybody in the entire game who just really get into the reincarnation system and get a absolute maxed out character. And having partners with him is just generally good because he can be kind of a soft tank and whatnot. So yeah, I'm gonna say that I think that this unit is quite good. I wouldn't call her a must pull by any means, especially with a supposed light elemental void character right around the corner. and Rafu coming, the light and dark battle will continue for months ahead as to cost and effectiveness of all of these units. But I gotta say, if you were just looking to, if you had 18k, you could spend it in a heck of a lot worse ways in this game than just guaranteeing this character. So anyway, that's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and maybe I'll do another test battle against Wind in about 24 hours when I can do it again.